Okay, so I'm socially impaired, and recently Joe Rogan has had some thoughts on whether or not the president should succeed and how people really feel about the matter.
I mean, at the very least, even if you didn't want him to win, now that he's the president, would you not want him to succeed? Would you want? Why? If he succeeds, it means we succeed. Do you want everything to be a catastrophic failure because your guy didn't win?
That kind of sounds like a straw man. I mean, does that apply to some people? Totally. There's definitely people who are currently and actively rooting for the downfall of the U.S. economy, all in the effort to make Trump lose in 2020. Those people exist right now. Let me show you one. Here. He's right here.
Can I ask about the economy? Because this economy is going pretty well. We have to, what? Why is that funny?
It is going well for now.
For now, right. That's my, thank you. That's my question. Is like, I feel like the bottom has to fall out at some point. And by the way, I'm hoping for it because I think one way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy. Yeah. So please, bring on the recession. Yeah. Sorry if that hurts people, but it's either root for a recession or you lose your democracy. I think one way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy. Yeah. So please, bring on the recession. Yeah. Please, 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 bring on the recession. Yeah. Sorry if that hurts people. Bring on the recession. Yeah.
So as you can see, there's clearly people out there who are actively rooting for the downfall of the U.S. economy because they want Trump to lose in 2020. So if you're looking for those people and you want to point them out, they're there. They exist. I just showed you one.
It's a fucking weird time. It's
strange.
Like you're rooting. It's almost like you're rooting against America because you feel so strongly about the president.
When someone asks you the question, do you want the president to succeed? There are two main ways that people will take this. Either they will assume that you mean succeed as in everyone else succeeds. People will either take it that way, which is the way that you take it.
If he succeeds, it means we succeed.
But there's another way to take it, and that is, do I want the current administration to succeed in their objectives? Do I want their policies that they are fighting for to be implemented? Do I want the president to succeed in the policies that he ran on in his campaign? Do I want him to succeed in that? Now, that's basically the two ways that you can take this question. Or at least in practice, that's what happens. People will either take it the one way or the other way. If the president succeeds, that means we succeed. Or if the president succeeds, that means he succeeds in his policies that he's been fighting for. His goals. He succeeds in those. Now, I think that is the best way to take it, just because I'm looking at the word succeed. Just so we're all clear, all on the same page, let me go ahead and pull up the definition. And there it is. Achieve the desired aim or result. Now, you said the president. If you asked, do you want the American people to succeed? Then you'll get a much clearer and direct answer. And that is yes. Your average American citizen wants your average American citizen to do better and to have a more enriching and fulfilling and more successful life. Now, how we achieve that, well, that's where there's a lot of diversity in thought. But if you asked your average American citizen that question, then I am assuming that would be your average answer, which implies that they want the economy to do good. If the economy collapses and tens of millions, if not maybe even hundreds of millions of people's lives substantially decrease in quality, well, that affects them pretty badly. You know, your average American citizen. So at that point, I don't think they'll really care who the fuck is president, if their lives will be ruined or substantially decreased in quality, especially in such a short period of time. Now, who knows how big the next, essentially, upcoming recession will be? Who knows? But I don't think that's something you should wish for. And I don't think your average citizen does. And the reason for the confusion on your part, Joe, is because there's two different ways that your average person interprets that question. Now, you can say one is better than the other. I do. But that's irrelevant. In practice, most people will interpret that question one of two ways. The fact that you didn't even bother to mention that tells me that you don't know that. Which makes me ask the question, why? Is that not reasonable enough? I figured it out, and I'm just some asshole. I'm just some guy. So why is it that I, just some guy, can easily figure this out when Great Joe can't? Look, I like this guy. I think he's a fairly open-minded guy and worthy of your time. But this isn't rocket science. And if you're going to have a big open discussion about it, you should know this, or at the very least, figure it out later and express that to us. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just being a little bitch about it. I can do that sometimes. But I thought it's just that it's a pretty big fucking straw man to ask the question, do you want the president to succeed? And then to have someone say, no, I don't. And then just immediately go into the attitude of, oh, you want the country to fail. You want your average Joe to fail. Well, no. Because, like I said, there's two different ways to interpret that question. At least in practice there is. It's what happens in real life. When someone hears the question, do you want the president to succeed? They will either hear in their head the question, do you want the American people to succeed? Or they will hear, do you want the current administration to implement their policies? The policies that you disagree with. The policies that you believe would do great harm to this country. Now, it is completely fine to think that interpreting it one way is far superior than the other. But in practice, this is what happens. This is the reality on the ground. So to not acknowledge that allows you to straw man everyone else. Because when people say no, which it really kind of is just a yes or no question, it's not asking you to get into depth of how you feel about the matter. It's just, do you want the president to succeed? Yes or no? The people who say no, almost all of them are saying that they don't want the president to succeed with their current policies. I mean, I could straw man Joe just as easily. If I ask Joe, hey, do you want the president to succeed? And then he says yes. Well, I could just as easily say, oh, okay. So if the president has policies that he wants to implement that are objectively bad for the country, you still want him to succeed in that because you want him to succeed. You want the president to succeed. Not the American people, not your average Joe. You want the president to succeed because you are under the delusion that if the president succeeds, the American people succeed. Well, what if the president succeeds in doing things that benefit him but objectively hurt others or hurt the country? Why would you want him to succeed in that? Look, it's the way the question is asked is a yes or no question. But I think that's horse shit. It shouldn't be approached that way. This is too complex of a question to just break it down to a yes or no or a simple answer.
What you should want is, even if you don't like Donald Trump, what you should want is that he does a great fucking job.
If Trump decided to aggressively and passionately fight for a Medicare for all system, then I would want him to succeed in that. His current path in regards to our healthcare system is not something that I care for him to succeed at. I don't think we should approach this with, on principle, we just want the president to succeed. Because what if the president is a terrible fucking human being? What if? I mean, it's got to happen at some point, right? I'm assuming a lot of people would say that person is Trump. But let's say for the sake of argument that Trump is not an asshole or a terrible fucking person. At some point, even if it hasn't happened already, it's got to happen at some point, right? At some point in the future, we're going to have a president who wants to implement policies that are terrible because he is a terrible person. Maybe he's horribly corrupt. Do you want a president to succeed in his corruption? Because when you ask the question, you imply, it's not implied in the question, you just imply it because of how you think you're asking the question. So you imply to yourself that when you're asking if you want the president to succeed, you think that is directly tied in with your average Joe. So if everyone does good, that means that by definition, the president is succeeding. But you're completely ignoring the idea of the president succeeding with his policies, which is how a lot of people will interpret that question. So at the very least, you should be aware of that. I understand I'm making a big deal over nothing, and I'm hoping that I'm saying some really obvious shit that should not have been needed to be said in the first place. So I'm just kind of preaching to the choir. I'm hoping that's the case. I would assume that is the case. But just in case it isn't, I thought I would express my thoughts on this.